What's happening, Real Filmers? I'm here at the 2016 DC Independent Film Festival, and I have here with me special guest Jean-Marc Barr. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, my question is, here we are, closing night of the festival. Can you tell me, did you have a chance to check out some of the other festivities? I know that they had, some other events and some other seminars. Did you?
Well, I used to live in DC in the 60s until 1974. And this was my real first occasion to go see part of my family. So today, for example, cool. I saw cousins that I hadn't seen since then, and an uncle and an aunt. I arrived yesterday in the afternoon, so I haven't had a chance. I mean, the thing is, I try and do as many festivals as I can when I'm invited. But I sometimes my curiosity. I'm starting a film in New Orleans tomorrow. I just got in from France 3 days ago. Okay. So all of a sudden, your
jet lag.
Your curiosity is a little. I don't have the curiosity yet. Okay. If I can stay in a festival for 3, 4, 5 days, then I start to watch. But I looked at the programs. I've heard, I just heard about a high school competition where there's document, and I think how great that they're being able to take high school students and make documentaries and show them in a festival. That's just wonderful. And for actors like me who do a lot of independent cinema, these festivals are really the only times that we can really show our movies, because it's very hard to get them distributed or even sold to the television, which is not the best kind of situation, but the films exist. And so you talk cinema, and I had the chance to have films in Cannes and Toronto, and the whole chance to be able to discuss cinema of all ages, to see what's happening in the world. Also the chance of seeing colleagues, because now I'm getting a little old, so I'm starting to meet a lot of people.
Okay.
So I really I wouldn't be doing this business if it wasn't for festivals, and so I really support them.
Okay, so as you said, you've had an opportunity to be at various festivals. So, I have to ask, DC Independent Film Festival, why this festival?
Well, I was asked. They wanted. I think they wanted to, because I'm half American, half French. I'm a little bit known. I just met Deirdre and. In fact, Carol Bidot de Lille, who is one of the creators of this festival, asked me to come, and she's someone I went to school with a long time ago, and she, we are in the business, and so I try and accommodate people.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's these festivals are so rare. In France, we have a lot more. In America, cinema is still something quite exotic, because we're so ingrained with Hollywood and markets and things like that. So, they're so important because, hopefully one of these young high school students is going to take off with a documentary and start making that's what it's all about. Right now, we're in a period where where films are no longer, they're about profit, and they're no longer about culture, and we need to retaliate, and these festivals are ways of fighting back.
Okay. Now, in your body of work, you've had an opportunity to do, as you say, you've done a lot of independent films, but you've done some mainstream films as well. So, in your opinion, what do you think that there's something to be gained, out of both, or do you, prefer one over the other?
The problem is now, maybe you have a similar vision, but for the last 10 years since the internet's come, Hollywood has been in an obsession about guaranteeing their investments, and the only way that they can do that is by making $150 million films and spending $100 million for international release at the same time.
Sure.
Where in Europe, as well as in other parts of the world, when Star Wars comes out, it occupies 3/4 of all of our cinemas, and there's only a quarter of a percent for all the 15, 20 other films, and so it's for me sometimes it's becoming a bit authoritarian. You see what I'm saying? Because they are occupying the space. A lot of the times the cinemas aren't full, but because they want to make their money back, so all of a sudden the forum of the cinema, or the forum, when I was in San Diego way back in the 70s, in a small town called Pacific Beach, we had four.
Beach,
we had 4 cinemas, and they were, you could walk to the cinema. Now today, the only time you can go to the cinema is to go to Mission Valley in the big, the mall setting, and that kind of change has now solidified into something where we're just talking about profit, we're talking about special effects, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I grew up, in the 70s with Easy Rider, with Taxi Driver, where all of a sudden cinema was a cultural event. And that's why I'm doing this business, and that's why I continue to make independent films. And, maybe not millions and millions of people see it, but some people see it. For example, I did one of my own independent films in Illinois in 2000 called Too Much Flesh, and it's a film that we shot in digital, and the film came out in festivals and things like that, and it actually sold. And then I was shooting one time a film in South Africa, in Cape Town, and I was in the laundrette doing my laundry, and some young guy, mulatto, comes up to me and he says, "You're an actor, right?" And I said, yeah. I thought it was going to be I did a popular film called The Big Blue.
Right.
I thought it was going to be that. He says, "Man, I saw Too Much Flesh and that changed my life." And so for that kind of message or that kind of communication, I changed one person's life, and for me, that is why I do what I do. I came from a middle-class family. I had all the chances in the world, and I became an actor in a kind of aristocratic way. I said, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the art, and that's why I went to Europe, because it was the complete opposite of what was happening in Hollywood.
Okay.
And so I've been I did a film called The Big Blue, which gave me a huge opportunity to choose my career. And because I was born in Germany, I'm the son of an Air Force man. All of a sudden, I was participating, because after The Big Blue, I started working with people like Lars von Trier.
Sure, Nymphomaniac, sure.
Yeah. And what's funny is I've done like about 7 films with him. Even The Big Blue was shot in English. I'm being able to participate in European films in English for a world audience, which didn't really exist before. When you saw European films in English from the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were Americans or English who were coming over to make films in Europe. But this is like, for example, Lars is a Dane. He is one of the first generations, like me, of Europeans that speak English. And so all of a sudden, when you're in a situation where you're making a Danish film in English about the war, and you've got a Swede, an Icelandic, a French, a Dane, a German, all of a sudden we had the chance to kind of escape the chains of domestic production, as well as the chains of what Hollywood is doing, and actually create original pieces, and so I've been very, very lucky. I haven't been able to work in Hollywood at all, but I've been able to participate in films that for me are continuing in the tradition of what cinema should be.
Sure.
And of course it doesn't come with big salaries, but the divine madness that goes with making those kind of things is why you do it. And like that event, like that moment I told you about in South Africa, for me, that's why you do what you do.
Yeah. All right. So I know that you have a few projects that are, in the works, that are, whether they're in pre-production or currently filming. Can you talk about them?
Yeah, I'm starting a film tomorrow in New Orleans with a director. His name is Joan Carbon, and it's a very interesting piece about a young man who gets sucked into a kind of cult that is planning to do a terrorist attack.
Okay.
And something very topical. The gentleman I play is the leader of the cult who lived through Katrina, who lived through the Gulf oil spill, whose son 2 years before the movie starts came back from Iraq and had PTSD and worked in a gas station. They fired him because he had emotional problems, and then he committed suicide. So all of a sudden I'm dealing with a lot of the realities that Americans are living through today that we don't really get to be exposed to.
Sure.
And so for me, that I'm very proud of that. And I also had another opportunity about 5 years back to do a film that I'm really proud of, which is taken from Jack Kerouac's Big Sur. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but we had, I was paid nothing on the film, but the film, you can hear and feel Kerouac, and it's something that, after 30 years of experience, to be able to know that you can do that is so reassuring, because you're not you're not asked to do that in the big pictures.
Right.
You're just asked to be eye candy, say your lines right,
Right.
you know, or do your little performance. But I'm older now. I'm 55 years old, and I have a hard time sitting down. And if the film is empty, even though it's got a lot of money and a lot of great actors, if I'm not being touched or captivated, I get pissed off.
Okay.
You know, and it's becoming that visceral for me, because we're living in a society that, you know, in terms of profit, has eliminated culture, especially in this country. And the only way to rebel is through culture, because if you start picking up guns and doing it that way, it's finished, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Good talking to you.
You too, man. So there you have it, Real Filmers. Again, I'm here at the 2016 DC Independent Film Festival. I'm Brandon Troy. This is Jean-Marc Barr. I'll see you soon.